Some free willers have a fear of the idea of determinism on a fundamental level because our fundamental reality is God's territory. They have a fear of stirring up sacred ground. I may not be able to reach this group. But for others, the issue is a fear of accepting that something may be controlling their thoughts and actions. But this fear is a fallacy, and it's unfortunate, limiting, and as useless as having a fear of God. We should reconcile the relentless machinery and what I call the great mystery of the universe with the undeniable feeling that we have in every conscious moment, a result of myriads of neurons firing, chemical reactions, and outside input all co-mingling in unfathomable numbers of bifurcating dynamical feedback loops, cascading into complex thought patterns, which some insist on calling free will. So I'll end it there. Thanks, guys. Thanks for contributing.
So, who are the free willers for real? I mean,
I don't.
I'm not sure if I am a free willer or not.
The whole point is that I have no idea what anyone's talking about. That's exactly like saying, "What if pixie dust is real? What then? What are you going to do?" Well, I don't know what pixie dust is, so what?
Find a pixie.
Then I would get to wear a cute little thing with wings and fly around. I don't know. I don't know what free will is. I have no idea what anyone's talking about.
No,
I don't know what God is. I don't know what predetermining means when you're really, literally talking about the universe being predetermined. I just find these as undefinable.
Well, even if you don't know, does that mean because you don't know, it may not exist for you then?
It means I don't know what the question is. I don't understand the question. It's not like saying I don't know what 2 + 2 is. I thoroughly understand what that means.
But why is 2 + 2?
And if it was more complicated, what is the square root of some irrational number? You know, I understand the question. I just don't know the answer because I haven't figured it out. But what is free will? I don't understand the question.
Oh, okay, so that's your point, that it's doesn't make much sense to talk about free will.
Because 2 + 2 doesn't equal orange.
Well, but
It's never her consciousness.
That's really why people who consider themselves determinists or, indeterminists or people who don't believe in free will just simply don't understand. It just seems like a redundant thing that someone's bringing in, that why do we need that? And so in my book, I do compare this in a lot of different areas. Like, for instance, religion. So I run around calling myself an atheist, but really it's not that I know for sure there's no God. That's really not it. There really needs to be some other word in between agnostic and atheist. Because agnostic means I understand the question, but I don't know the answer. Mm-hmm. Atheism means I understand the question and I know the answer. The answer is So yeah, I guess I'm No, I'm more like a huh?
All right. There you
What are you
are.
talking about?
Back in the 80s, I had the privilege of listening to a scientist's lecture. His name was Andrei Puharich, and he had mentioned that one of the discoveries back then was, we were talking about microcosm and macrocosm, that they had discovered that the spaces between our molecules of our bodies and, were identical to the macrocosm out here in the outer space, the spaces between the stars.
So what do they mean by identical?
He said they were
Relatively the same distance?
They were the same distance. And so one of the people in the audience asked, well, does that mean we're just part of someone's body, walking out there, but this is our perspective from where we
Exactly.
are,
It's like we could be on that dog leash is taller.
But basically, yes. But
Or worse.
This man, yes, or worse. We won't talk about worse. However, with that in mind, I know one of my teachers once said that in terms of human consciousness, and the
Mhm.
consciousness of what we call the greater universe, which means not just ours, but what else
Like
is
collective
out there.
consciousness. Not collective
It is-
consciousness necessarily, but universal
No,
consciousness.
yes, universal.
Like getting
beyond-
past humans, like on a
beyond
larger
that,
scale.
Yes, it was about that of a flea. I said, really?
Wait, which was the flea?
Ours.
Oh, ours is, yeah.
Our
Probably.
our consciousness, and that there's a propensity for us to turn things over and over and over like this. And of course, we're going to. I enjoyed. I want to say I really enjoyed your lecture this evening.
Thank you.
And one of the things that I heard in this, I'm a behavioral health.
Oh, good. She's gonna get analyzed. She's gonna get free therapy.
No, but one of retired, so I'm not going to do that. Okay. But one of the things that I did hear you say was feeling comfortable within how you felt and thought,
Uh-huh.
you know, and that's fine.
It feels wonderful, actually.
Well, that's good.
I mean, with regards to
That's good, it really is. It's just that, you know, while you were talking, and we have this side and that side, his side and my side, and everyone's side, and all of that's not important. Because I really believe that we are part of somebody's armpit. I do.
I can see that.
And
Oh, go ahead.
it's okay. No, I believe what I heard all those years ago, and more, which I won't go into right now. So I think we should really relax and enjoy the ride.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
That's really why I
thank
wish
you
people
all.
would stop talking about predetermining. Just relax. We're being determined as we go. Just enjoy the ride, really. It's really like we're on a ride. So as far as the larger
Next week's
consciousness
just
and
stuff
smaller
like that.
consciousness,
Mhm.
here's my really scientific view of that. I don't think, technicality, but I wouldn't compare us to fleas simply because the flea's camera isn't a black hole. It's not directed.
Again,
not
semantics.
digital.
So that's a semantic thing.
Yes.
But there could be a larger black hole, so to speak, of consciousness, focused system. So maybe the entire universe is so focused that it itself is a black hole. I mean, that kind of makes sense to me in a way because the universe can't escape from itself. The same way, you know, this is all going to be a loose analogy, but the same way that something can't escape from a black hole, the same way that our sense of I, our sense of self, can't escape from us. The universe can't escape from itself. The universe is almost like maybe a universe is a black hole or some kind of focused thing.
Maybe it's George.
Maybe it's what?
It's George.
Maybe its name is George.
Maybe it's, you know,
Can humanize the universe.
a body. Seriously.
Men in Black makes a good,
And
great analogy of it.
with regards
Very
to
Men in
chaos
Black.
theory,
The locker room or the marble or whatever.
I just hope we're not an armpit, but with regards to chaos theory, which is very related to fractals, so fractals
Right.
I haven't really talked about, but most of you probably understand fractal means it's got self-repeating patterns inside of it. So for instance, one leaf on a tree might resemble the shape of the entire tree, and then there's smaller and smaller branches. So, Pascal, let me finish my thought, and then I'm going to introduce you. So, there might be our little flea brains, and then on a larger scale, you know, obviously there's systems, overlapping systems, but there might be some system on some certain scale that's got such strong feedback loops and focus that it has its own consciousness. There could be, you know, I would probably guess that maybe the entire universe has some kind of consciousness, and it's probably not even aware of us. We might have tiny consciousnesses, feedback loops inside of us,
I gotta go to the vet.
but we're not aware of them. So in a way, that would be like really, really cool if that really is the case. But I would doubt the universe would even be aware that we have our own consciousness. We would just be fleas or cells or so.
Worse.
But that's a really good question.
The universe needs to be dipped.
In fact, really, if I take my chaos theory fractal business to its logical extreme, I would almost have to come to that conclusion that there has to be pretty much everything is going to be self-repeating on different scales. So consciousness, maybe that too.
Wouldn't that go back to an idea of God, though?
That's what
Oh.
I was about to say.
No, that's undefined.
That's a way to explain
She
it.
mentions God. She said, "Oh."
Thanks again. I want to introduce my friend because this is Pascal Lee, the one we were talking about. Dr. Lee works for NASA Ames. He's a planetary geologist. And
Right. But I mean,
Savas, he's the book owner. Savas just knew I was a space cadet, and he just found this random Mars book and put it here. He had it all on display. So I just have this here for you, and I'm like, that's my friend I was just hanging out with, and he's coming here. And that's his camera that I'm using.
There it is.
Okay, well, I'm done. So.